we want to start with definitions. My colleagues who are usually working together say that Horane is a definitionist because I think when we know what we're talking about and we have clear understanding, we could formulate the goals and we could be more intentional in the assignments and activities that we choose. So this comes straight from the Intercultural Knowledge and Competence Value Rubric, the openness construct. And I'm looking at capstone 4. For those who are familiar with the rubric, they're the different levels that taking a very developmental approach that as you do different activities and engage with them, you're able to work through to see where you are. We'll talk a little bit more about the developmental approach later. But at capstone 4, I've bolded the 2 parts of intercultural openness that I think are really important that helps us to focus in on our goals and then potential activities. So initiating and developing interaction with those who are culturally different, and then suspending judgment. So reserving judgment during interactions with those who are culturally different than we are. And I think when you think about these 2 components, just conceptually, it really helps you be more focused. Also, to operationalize them, as you'll see later in the session when we talk about assessment, you could use different statements to get at these things to different depths and to varying degrees. Kris, you can look at the next slide. So in developing the AAC&U rubrics, I've had the privilege to talk to some of the people who worked on the rubrics. And one of the important models was Darla Deardorff's pyramid model for intercultural competence. And I found this to be a valuable tool in my own work, thinking about at the top level, the desired external outcome, intercultural knowledge and competence, being able to communicate effectively and appropriately. But to get to that point, some of what Darla Deardorff calls the requisite attitudes at the bottom of the pyramid is this idea of openness, curiosity, respect. And openness is just, as it says there, withholding judgment, similar to the definition. And the notes section, I want to point this out because I think it's really valuable. And as we think about how we structure a session or design an experiential learning experience, being very clear about how we scaffold the activities for different people, and the definitions help us to do that. So if our desired external outcome is communicating effectively and appropriately across differences, then openness is one of those attitudes that we need to start with cultivating. And that's what calls a requisite, right? Yeah, next slide. So we also, as Kris and I were designing this, we realized that, the term openness has, depending on your disciplinary background, I know we have a range of people here today. My background is in educational psychology and research methods. So in psychology, sometimes openness could be associated with sort of a trait, and it's static and related to personality. That is really not what we're talking about here, but we're looking specifically at intercultural openness, which is more dynamic, more developmental, as you saw with the rubric. Some other assessments that use the intercultural approach to openness, the beliefs, events, and values inventory, which is one that Kris is very familiar with, and myself and probably others on the call. But these 2 ideas related to openness, basic openness, honestly about our internal processes, and then sociocultural openness, thinking about our relationships to others. So self-awareness and other awareness in that way. And then other 2, we'll get into 2 of these actually, the M goods, which in some sense sort of connects to this idea, the attitude of curiosity, which if you go back to the Deardorff's model, curiosity was one of those requisite, so it's interest in engaging with others. So this idea of initiating, welcoming, being open to different interactions with people who are different than you. And then this last one, tolerance for ambiguity. We have sort of flagged this as a related construct because oftentimes when we think about being in another culture or communicating with someone who is different, there can be some discomfort. Some of it may be tied to personality or just awareness of the cultural context itself. So tolerance for ambiguity, which means being comfortable in sort of uncomfortable situations and things that are not so clear cut, which if anyone has traveled to a different country or just, I'm originally from Jamaica, and I often tell people that the US is very large, and I could go from the Midwest to the South and have a completely different cultural experience, because that's what it is. And you can experience that with across borders internationally as well as within your country. All right, next slide. Yes.